G. Willikers to life. G. Willikers to that one. You know, something that gets away, and that's a whole different quest, right? What are we particularly needing to let go? But anyways, not to get all like some type of sentimentality in there, trying to ride through the wave of that, but seeing how not getting caught up in other waves for your, whatever your version of liberation is, and how you're apparently sharing your liberation. So that particularly could be some type of mutual field, supposedly is some type of God mission. But it could be said that on one modest way, it could be said that in one modest way, some alert screen window popped up. So there's different alert screen windows. It pops up when it pops up based on some type of, different catalog of the RAM usage and the memory, accumulation or whatever within this new resetted technology, respectively. But it could be said that, in just a niche way, the dream itself of this life, in like a pretty sophisticated way, as is, our relationships with the females themselves, that could be likened to the dream, some type of Maya influence, some type of pulling force to a material realm. Maya on a modest level, you could even say something of a secondary level or a post-secondary level, just within, how material is after the spiritual. And then after that is just our dream upon that female material realm or whatever. So with that being said, some people compare the example of something of a an allegory of what Maya is, what illusion is akin to that which is not necessarily just quote unquote painted by temptation, end quote, but they liken it in a certain context, I guess you could say, to the female itself. So it's like, it's not that it's, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but, or nothing of that like matter in itself. But there could be a complex way of how everything is in reverse in here, so that's something of a complex, like more or less, so within that complex more or less, if we're kind of like on like this surface level realm, if we're kind of like in a unique dream, aside from all like, the human emotions and thought forms, because obviously that's the casual work that needs to be worked on, just some people just not having that ability for whatever reason to like, I guess, practice the quieting of the mind and seeing like the resolution of, not being emotionally toxic, respectively. So like if everything's backwards, then maybe like on one level the divine feminine itself has more power than we think it does. And on a backwards level, the divine feminine, or just the female material form in general, in a dream level, they could have like some type of prominence in like the nature realm above us, like that's what, like on a different dream level, we forgot that the divine feminine is in charge. And that's the whole thing coming out of this timeline, out of the darkness that we came out of within the binary star travel pursuit system, of just how generally the solar system is riding upon a binary star. You could look up, you could just generally research that. And with that being said, there's a certain like scientifical thing that's going out of that based on, the different levels of darkness, and however, different types of effulging lights of different types of constellations were less shown from the recent timeline that we're coming out of. And now that for whatever reason, upon the pursuit of the standard, galactical binary star in one respects, or however you would like to quadrantialize that, or quadrantialize that, meaning seeing the quadrant of, where the space is in time and where the time is in space respectively. If you like just understand like, a deeper, metaphysical astronomy. And within that, for whatever reason, more light is coming in different, from different versions of celestial bodies. So within those celestial bodies, us receiving that new light, we're just kind of remembering how something from a different higher system already always was. And that was like in different levels of the dream, the divine feminine had a different, in charge hood of like how like things are just generally run in accordance to nature. But us being uniquely in this unique collective experience coming out of the timeline of a context of darkness, a collective context of darkness is just like lack of a certain like metaphysical clarity that's, that's like more, that is more visceral and tangible in the future respectively. So on a different dream level, it's like, the surface level of the illusion is how, like, just on a collective level, we forgot how much influence the divine feminine has, because there's a lot of chief goddesses. And if there's a lot of chief goddesses, then there's a bigger influence that we're just mistaking, or we're just keeping, for ourselves within our own, self metaphysical lineage, based on how we're perceiving and adapting and growing and relating with whatever we think the divine feminine is and the divine masculine is. That's all on us, that's all up to us. And this new age, but this new age is just reminding us on a field that has always been, that we're going into, and within that field that we're going into the future, it is divine feminine. Like you could liken like divine feminine and, I guess, her reflections to something that is akin to Maya and the dream state, because there's many, references to that in just a general modest level, mind you. So so this video, I just kind of want to celebrate, for whatever reason, and somewhere in different thresholds of a different dream realm, we have unique fears of the divine feminine for whatever reason. And after like that, that realm of the original divine feminine, there was a new realm created based on our fear from that, particularly like it was like metaphysically created from a different like a version to that. And I'm not for any type of gender war, first of all, because we have to see the deeper balance of it. Because if we don't see the deeper balance of it, then we're lacking how to bring galactic peace to like all the galactic wars respectively, and however you relate to that respectively in the best neutral sense. And I'm not speaking for anybody, and I'm not like picking favorites, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just like seeing what are like, how, like, just being in flow with the mechanics that already are. And the mechanics that already are, they're influenced prominently by chief goddess deity entities, or chief goddess entity deities. Literally, that's already happening. And it's like, for us to like not necessarily like have an understanding of that, then we're gonna like kind of like project our ignorance upon like how things are moving and working, and we're just gonna have confused thoughts, and we're gonna have some type of blame hood based on like you know, just a lack of understanding. So with that being said, this video is just like for me to celebrate the balance of the divine feminine and how she has an influence with how all of this is running, how all of the matrix is running. I want to celebrate, you know, the higher octave of all the females, you know, all the holistic females, all the healthy females, and for their balanced sovereignty. You know, you could call it like you could call it like you know, cosmic feminine entrepreneurship or something like that, you know, just for a rough example or a smooth example at the same time, because we have to work on the balance with how we're having a new understanding of how we're just kind of accepting and realizing our situations is based on how we're treating the divine feminine from a different standpoint, because that's the illusion in itself. The illusion in itself is like, you know, for whatever reason, if things are kind of backwards and like you see like a couple, like a man and a woman, and a man is like you know, telling off the women like, oh, you stupid, blah blah, like, just for an example, quote unquote, end quote, and the woman is just like kind of like more or less kind of just like something of like a victim and subservient based on her choosings of how she's connecting with that spirit, you know. Like, why is that, you know, why is that standpoint of a female starting to connect with the male based on just, you know, whatever casual experiment naturally is unfolding from that, and there's no judgment there, but like to see it play out on this reality, it means something pretty particular. It means if this is a dream, then on a different level, the like the tables could be like reversed, you know, like in a different level, maybe like the female itself is in control, like on like a whole different level, and we don't necessarily realize that because we just are unknown to that fact. On a neutral level, we're unknown to that fact because they're likening Maya, whatever they're saying Maya, and in different contexts, in different summaries, I explain it way differently, mind you. It's not just focusing on one chime, one point, without seeing the bigger like story, you know, because obviously like someone, I get how someone could try to pick apart, you know, someone's logic like naturally or like GMO-ly or whatever, like within just like the psychology of it, seeing like, you know, how the engineering doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, like physiologically chemicalized, but I'm not like knocking that either, you know. I'm just like, because like everyone has their own like resilience, so like I'm not knocking that either, because obviously like I get where like someone could be coming from, you know. I get like, you know, how like, you know, let people just do them, you know. Everyone works differently, because I like I was in like a certain like, you know, partnership, and within like, you know, like an old partnership, we had this conversation of like how we're like, you know, how we should eat, you know, how we should eat, and like, you know, kind of like judging other people for what like for what they're eating, you know. And we shouldn't necessarily do that, because like, you know, our body is like it is like asking for its own, you know, needs and how it does. And like when you're too rigid, like, you know, I'm not trying to get too deep on this particular subject, but like even like the vegan cultures, like they could get too rigid with, you know, just like needing, like believing that they need like nothing less but veggies and berries. Like some body types need like meat, but I'm not trying to talk about that. I'm just trying to like chime in like that, like you know, some people could just like impose their, you know, suggestions a little too like out of pockety, you know. And I'm not trying to do that at all. I'm just trying to see a deeper balance within that. And the point of this video is just like me celebrating, you know, the females going towards sovereignty, because in the end that is their deepest desire. Their deepest desire is just to want to have fun and to be free. But like, how do they be fun and free? Like, it's their collective agency of like having their own intelligence within their agency of how they're like working with that. And that's already a thing. Like, literally there's already different, like, kind of agencies, for better lack of words, that are doing that. It's just that we're kind of just growing into that. That's the whole thing with, whatever you could say, reducing the homogenization and something of a deconditioning process is just like kind of like saying, like, accepting like how we could just have been unknown of something, or how we could, like, more or less casually relate to something, like the opposite of neti neti, neti neti, not this, not that, not this, not that. Oh, maybe this. Oh, maybe that. And oh, maybe this. Oh, maybe that. Oh, yes, this. Oh, yes, that, like casually, naturally, like, okay, like there's some type of divine feminine influence. And within that divine feminine influence, we're kind of like casually growing towards that, casually and neutrally, because I get how someone could, like, try to, like, just get caught up on one detail when it's like, it's not even that at all. You like you're traveling on a road, and like every driver that like flips you off, you don't have to like take their bait. You don't have to like dwell on just one driver flipping you off, because like obviously people's road rage, they're dealing with their own fucking shit. So it's like, don't let their stuff be a part of like your stuff, because you got like places to go, and obviously the show goes on as it must. So it's like, why get caught up on one detail when there's still a road that has to be traveled? But like obviously some like neutral details are like needed, like, I have to do this. I have to, like, pay my insurance bill. I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my, like, obviously there's neutral needed details, no doubt about that. Like, I have to, like, get along with, these coworkers, right? If I'm, like, going to keep this job, and may, like, for whatever reason, like, may I get along with them, for however I can. And maybe on a neutral sense, like, everybody is a coworker too, because on the backwards level of this dream reality, like, we're trying to get along with like nature, who has a different influence on how the reality moves. And if we have a good relationship with nature on different deeper spiritual pure balance levels, then we could move with that in the future, based on understanding how like nature and the divine feminine is moving, and why on a different deep secret level she's putting us through everything that we're going through, whether we like that or not, because she's more so in control on a more significant level that leans towards something of an energetic no choice kind of in facto typo kind of, laboratory of your circumstance, of your circumference, of the dispositional stance that you're taking on an esoteric intellectual type of level, that has casual neutral causes and effects based on where our intelligence is, grows our intention and focus, and that intention and focus ultimately turns into some type of projection, and that projection beams on its spirit onto something, and that projection ultimately casts a certain type of esoteric reflection based on what is like receptive enough to balance that reflection, or what's not receptive enough to not balance that, is how you work with, the clarity or lack of clarity with, the human intelligence, which is its own thing from, the whole nature. Because even beside the divine feminine, I'm celebrating the feminine beyond the humans, the human females, because the divine femininity of the of like, I guess the original spiritual nature is that's beyond the humans of it. And pretty much what's going on here is like that would be the support to transform even what the human females are in, by seeing like what the pure divine feminine nature is how the divine feminine nature is like, she's already like kind of controlling this in a different realm, but that like for whatever and on a deep different dream level, we had like something of a